Because, man, you're never going to forget what I'm going to do with you. Man, I'm going to hurt you a lot, man. You're going to see.
Would you tell me?
You're going to see. You're going to see what I'm going to do.
But I feel like...
I'm going to shake the hands, but no.
Yeah. Good morning.
I'm not going to be your friend. I'm going to hurt you.
Okay.
I don't like you, and the dude's going to like you.
Wanderlei, stop.
What now?
Please stop. I can't let you get close.
Give him a...
Stop. Stop.
You don't get a nickname like the Axe Murderer without having something seriously fierce in your demeanor. For the PRIDE and UFC legend Wanderlei Silva, he stands as the most perfect example of being an utter lunatic in the ring, and then apparently a genuinely nice guy outside of it. We're gonna hear what some of the biggest names in MMA have to say about this fighting legend and his reputation. This is UFC Fighters Explain how terrifying Wanderlei Silva was. Few rivals, if any, were as famously linked to Wanderlei as the mighty former UFC light heavyweight champion Chuck Liddell.
Who was the guy who hit you the hardest that you remember?
That I remember.
And that's the thing. I heard that before.
I remember Vanderlei.
Really? Wow.
And it would have been nice if Vanderlei and I had that one a couple years sooner when it should have.
I agree with that.
Because we're both at a prime and for 5 rounds. I'm sure we both would have liked it, and I'm sure the fans would have loved the rest of that fight.
Yeah.
By the time these two legends finally fought, it was widely agreed upon that they were past their prime. But against all odds, the fight somehow over-delivered. What we got was a quite frankly insane fight of the year, an all-out war that showed both men rolling back the clock and turning the violence dials all the way up to 10. Sure, we gotta agree with Chuck when he says that 5 rounds in their prime would have been ideal, but there's no denying that the consolation prize was way better than anyone could have possibly imagined. You can always rely on Forrest Griffin to be both a warrior inside the cage and then a very funny and personable guy outside of it.
He's actually a really, really nice guy.
No.
Wanderlei
is a nice guy.
So nice. Like, I would go to barbecues at the guy's house. I trained
Shut
at his
the fuck
gym.
up.
He's so nice. He's like the nicest guy.
This guy just told me he met a chupacabra.
I sparred with Wanderlei Silva for about 2 years, and I always thought that would have been a cool fight to have. You know, when we were both in our prime, I thought that would have been a cool fight. I'm not saying I would have won that fight. Not at all, but I'm saying it would have been a cool fight. You know, it would have been one. You know, I had some, and I'm sure you're the same way, man. I had sparring sessions that were harder than any fight I've ever had, and then I was like, why? Why did you do that, Forrest? You know.
Though Rampage wasn't originally convinced that Wanderlei was such a nice guy, Griffin was yet another guy who could back up that claim. In terms of pure fighting, Griffin is another fighter who was clearly eyeing up Silva. Both guys in their prime were totally unwilling to quit on themselves in there, and as long as they were upright, it would have been a total war. Who would you guys pick in that showdown? Prime Griffin versus Prime Silva in the UFC octagon over 25 minutes. Even the nicest people can have a switch that, when flicked, can turn them into a genuine monster. Wanderlei Silva is the type of guy who fits that description perfectly. And if you needed any more proof, Baz Rutten can vouch for Silva's totally calm and serene other side.
They don't know Wanderlei Silva. If you meet Wanderlei Silva, he might look angry, but you go towards him and he will have a smile on his face. He's a very friendly guy, you know, so, and yeah, of course, he's crazy. You know, they try to knock each other out in the gym, but that's what a fighter does. That's what you should do, but I think it's very hard to get a fight with them on the street. With guys like that, they will always try to. Okay, I don't want to fight. You know, it's my job. I don't want to do anything. And he's one of those guys. And most of the time, it's the insecure guys who are not so good. Those are the guys that make trouble on the street because otherwise nobody knows who they are, right?
Though they have butted heads in the past, Dana White eventually came around to the fact that Wanderlei was very deserving of a spot in the UFC Hall of Fame.
He deserves to be. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You know, everybody that was a hardcore fan back then was a big fan of PRIDE, and, you know, a lot of big stars came out of there, and Wanderlei has done a lot for the sport. in the early days, and he deserves to be in there.
Dana was definitely not happy with Wanderlei after some pet issues, leading to a nasty split between them. But as the UFC boss himself says, he's so inundated with high-profile beefs and scandals that it can be hard to remember why he was angry in the first place. The one thing that is truly important, of course, are the fights, and boy did Silva deliver those. UFC color commentator Joe Rogan has never been one to try and hide the fact that he reveres the golden age of MMA in the early to mid-2000s.
It's like Wanderlei Silva has the most profound facial form change in all of MMA. Because he went from if you go back,
he's like Sammy
Sosa. Wanderlei Silva versus, go to Wanderlei Silva versus Dan Henderson 1 when they first fought in Pride. He was a normal, actually pretty good looking guy, like regular good looking guy. And then by the time he left Pride, his face was just smashed in. By the time he fought Chuck Liddell, his face was just smashed in. His nose had been literally flattened.
Wow.
From punches and kicks, and not just from fights, but also from training. The training that he did at Shoot to Box in Curitiba was legendary.
Yeah, his face was fucked up.
Fucked up.
That also, would bring me to another thing. We got to go to Brazil one time.
Yeah.
We didn't do a show that time, but
see, that's him versus Dan Henderson.
Yeah, pretty
the first
normal
fight.
looking.
Can make that a little bigger, so you can see. Yeah, super normal looking. Just a normal looking badass. That was the first fight where he fought Dan Henderson.
Dan Henderson's chin looks like it's drawn on.
Yeah, he's got an
like somebody
iron chin.
fucked up.
I know,
tick
like
when he's
that
drawing
extra
it.
bone.
Yeah. Jay Leno and him should chin
You see
off.
that picture of Wanderlei above that with the eye all fucked up?
Ugh.
That was him from that fight.
Oh, really?
Dan Henderson connected with a haymaker of a right hand and fucked up his eye.
I love how this guy's smiling that. Like, look at this badge. Look at this cool picture I'm about to take.
But you mean, look at Wanderlei's face there in comparison to his face later on in his career. Totally different. Dan Henderson?
There was just something different about that era. The spectacle, the characters involved, and more importantly, the fact that there were more options for high-level fight fans. The Wanderlei era of Pride could stand on its own 2 feet against anything Dana White and the UFC could put together. The same could have been said for many Strikeforce events. Sadly, we're not living in that era anymore. But that doesn't mean that it's not fun to reminisce about the good old days, right? And finally, what better way to end than with a word from Wanderlei Silva himself.
Let me start at middleweight. If young Wanderlei was still fighting, how do you think you would approach a fight with Dracus or Israel Adesanya?
I think to beat the technique and to win against technique, only aggressiveness, because I think so many fighters today, they fight not to lose, they don't fight to win.
There was no doubt that Wanderlei would answer the question in this exact fashion. You gotta stick to what you know, and Wanderlei certainly knew violence better than anyone else. Sure, the game has gotten more technical at its highest levels, but we're certain that there are more than a few top 15 middleweights or light heavyweights who would fold under the pressure of an all-out Wanderlei assault. We're not saying he could reach the title, although it is food for thought. In fact, that might be an interesting discussion. Which ranked 185 or 205 pounder do you think Wanderlei would have had the best chance of beating in his prime? But anyway, that'll just about do it for this video. What is your favorite fight of Wanderlei Silva's career? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.